Lil is next week, but my jingle this week is bleak.
That was tough, Jackson. I have
That
to
was,
say, you've been on point. The last jingle was a banger. Not that I can say anything because I didn't come up with any jingle this week. So um, that is our best jingle.
it was a little weak, I can't lie. Well,
That's all right. That's all right. There's it's a little bit of a week, as in we're not doing any events. There is Lille and Gdansk going on though, so there's definitely some stuff to talk about there. Uh, how are you doing lately? Have you been playing a lot of Pokemon, or just kind of riding your high from your win, still laying back? How have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Busiest week probably ever. I worked like 65 hours or something like that last week. Just a ridiculous amount. I did an update to the Charizard guide that took me a while. People wanted to hear about all the updates there, so that was fun. I did take a week off of coaching, so I needed some time to focus on other stuff where like had I had my schedule open, I was probably just completely booked for that week. So I needed to like take a week off to A, focus on myself, and B, get that stuff out. I told my girlfriend I wasn't going to do anything, and then I think I still put like 25 hours. Like I got that article on Cutter Tab coming out, and then also did the guide. So it was actually a lot more than I expected to do on my week off. So I've been riding the high, but also kind of just working through it. It's been good, and I'm blessed to have the opportunities and the fortune from this last 2 weeks. So I'm very excited for that. But not been playing a ton of Pokemon outside of that. I would say I did a little bit of work with the Secret Box build. I saw a few lists from Milwaukee that were playing Heroes Cape. So I did a little bit of innovating on Charizard. I have some time until Buenos Aires, so I have some time to perfect those lists, figure out where the meta's at. Like you said, there's Lil and Gdansk going on, but nothing for us. So I have some time until I need to figure out what's actually going in my Charizard deck. Doing good. How are you doing?
No, I'm in the same boat. My next regional's Vegas, same weekend as the Buenos Aires SPE, but um, don't feel a lot of pressure. I'm definitely not changing my deck. I'm just gonna like play Guardy again. I'll refine the list kind of the week before. I've actually been preparing for a Lorcana tournament this weekend, also in Milwaukee, which I'm really
Going,
excited for.
going back to Milwaukee? Oh,
Yeah, back to Milwaukee, another like 12-hour drive. It's gonna be good. I'm playing like the Raging Bolt equivalent of Lorcana decks, where it's
okay.
like I'm just super aggressive because I don't know Lorcana as well as I know Pokemon, and so I'm kind of trying to like have a chance against the really good players. Where like if I just and Lorcana, it's a little different. And the aggro decks in Lorcana, I think, are a little stronger than Raging Bolt. And if I have the perfect draw, I can get lucky and just like beat the top Lorcana players. So that's kind of my angle.
Yeah, just a little bit of high roller, right? I remember
Yeah.
like Zing did a One Piece event in Toronto like a few weeks ago. I think just like bought some sort of metafied guide and just came in like top 16 or something, or top I actually might have even been like top 4. I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but that's I feel like that's kind of the way to go. You let your knowledge from Pokemon, at least the carryover, and your fundamental understanding carry. How much is the carryover between games? Is there like a lot of carryover between Pokemon and Lorcana? Because I have no idea.
Honestly, no. I've played a lot of games though. I've played Magic, One Piece, even some Yu-Gi-Oh! Those games transfer really well between each other, but they actually don't transfer very well to Pokemon. Pokemon's very unique in that you draw a lot of cards, you do a lot of actions. Whereas in these other games, you really are drawing like one card a turn, and then you're playing one or two cards a turn. Um, there's no free cards like Ultra Ball and like cards you can just play, right? Well, I guess
Yeah.
Ultra Ball's not really free, but um, so yeah, not a lot of carryover, but definitely some carryover from the other games I've played. And I guess the logical thinking applies, but just not in the
Mhm.
same ways.
Right. I understand. I've always been hesitant to pick up any other card game because it's a lot of card pool knowledge. I feel like that's
Yeah.
the biggest limiting factor. I don't really want to memorize 600 cards. Pokemon's at least nice where the card pool is big, but there's very few playable cards. I feel like in other trading card games, I have to memorize a whole lot of other win conditions and things to play around. So when you're picking up any card game, and this happens with Pokemon players all the time, especially when I'm coaching, and if it's someone newer, they just don't know that a card exists to play around it. It's very challenging to play around something you don't know that exists. So maybe I'll pick up
Oh
Lorcana
my
at some
gosh.
point, join you for a weekend in Milwaukee, but I'll have to learn some cards before that happens.
There's one Lorcana card called Under the Sea, and it basically kills all your characters that have like 2 power or less. And
Okay.
like almost all the characters in my deck have 2 power or less. And so I was playing a game, I had like six characters on the board. I thought I was like winning for sure. And then my opponent just plays one card that puts them all back into my deck, and I literally lost on the spot. And I was that literally happened to me, and I was like, oh, well, next time I will put less characters into play.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
it definitely is part of learning those other games. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I imagine that's the experience that someone has when you get hit with like Candy Dusknor, Night Stretcher, Dusknor, Candy Dusknor, Phantom Dive. And probably like
Yep.
Iona to like
I
four on
don't
top of
know.
that, right? Yeah, that sounds like
Yes.
the like welcome to the game kind of moment, right? Welcome to the NBA, right?
Yes. Or like unfair stamp is probably like that a lot of the time. Just play an unfair stamp on turn 2 or whatever.
Oh no, they knocked out the
Um,
Bidoof with like steady fire breathing.
yes, yes. Then just get stamped.
Yeah, that's not a good time
Anyways,
at all.
we're turning into the shift gear here. Just crazy yap about
Yeah.
not Pokemon. So we can do some yap about Pokemon, I suppose.
Hey man, I don't
Um,
know, man. Shout out to Shift Gear. Their episode this week was a little bit of a banger. If you guys haven't seen
my
that,
gosh, it was fire, man. It was fire if you love the Blue Jays and don't actually want to hear any Pokemon and only have like 5 minutes to spare. Then yeah, go ahead and listen to the
dude,
shift gear.
that's perfect. I'm gonna have to listen to it on my lunch break today.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good yap. It was funny. I did watch it anyways, and it was kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, we got some Pokemon to talk about though. We got Lille coming up this weekend, Gdansk following up next week. I suppose we'll talk about Lille results there, but no tournament results really to talk about. I think we'll get into some of the meta shifts. I want to hear your input on Dragapult Dusknor. I've been hearing murmurs. People have been saying Dragapult is in a good position. I saw a tweet from Ian Robb saying that this might be the best positioned that Dragapult Dusknor has been since Mega Evolutions. I want to hear your thoughts on that. I'm going to provide some of my thoughts on Charizard going into this week as well. I know that some people definitely want to hear about that. I'll give some input. I received another 15 questions about how much HP my Pidgeotto has and why I'm playing it, and I was very upset. So that was
Oh, just because you answered it last week about the artwork.
I answered it on the podcast. It's in the guide. I've already answered so many messages. It's for the artwork, guys. Relax. It's optimal. Trust me.
Trust. There you go. Uh, but yeah, for Pull Dusk, I think I guess it's true that it's in the best position it's been in since Mega came out, because Mega just came out and Pull Dusk was pretty terrible for Milwaukee. And yeah, sure, it's slightly less terrible now, but it still has all the same issues. Like, yes, I think Milwaukee, and specifically you and your win, has given Pull Dusk players a reason to cling on to like their deck that is just not positioned well in the meta.
Yes.
Um, because it's not even just the Guardy matchup anymore. Like, yes, the Guardy matchup is bad, but the bigger problem, well, I mean, that is probably the biggest problem. But other problems include Saraledge and Gholdengo with the Soul Rock, I think is a lot more threatening. They're much faster. They draw more cards. Your Ionos are worse. I'm not convinced that the Absol matchup is very good. I think it's playable, but I don't think it's very good. So I think those add up to me to just not really wanting to look at Dragapult at all. But I don't know. I guess a lot of people are going to play Zard. So there is a reason, if you love Dragapult,
Yes.
cling to that And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's in
need some.
Charizards, I
Yeah, I
guess.
was gonna say I need some Guardy Jelly to do good this week, so it kind of puts the Dragapult players back in the bin. But you're right. I feel like it doesn't matter how badly positioned the deck is. I mean, you kind of escape from the matrix in the sense, but most Dragapult players, I like looked at the results for Milwaukee, and I was starting to click on some of these guys' limitless pages that had Dragapult runs, and I look at the last 5 entries, and they're just all Dragapult entries. I'm like, okay, it makes sense, right? It is more important to play a deck that you are good at if you don't think that you can pilot the next deck to the same ability. So I will kind of give props to people to sticking to what they know in that sense. It's probably better for your overall tournament as opposed to like slightly being better positioned. But I did want to hear your thoughts as well because you didn't talk about this as much. The Henry Chow slash Abon latest innovation list playing, one Curlia, no TM Evo. Is this not something you're thinking about when it comes to Pull Dusk either?
That's something to think about. I suppose that's something to think about. Yeah, if people are going to do that, that makes Pull Dusk better. I don't really see people doing that. When I look at that list, I have two main thoughts. One, I think the list is actually pretty poor into Charizard. Would you agree with that? Like
I
relative to the
mean,
other lists?
yeah, relatively speaking, I wouldn't say that any Gardevoir list has a particularly terrible Charizard matchup because Monkey Dory and Mew EX are kind of like your main core strategies, anyways. But yeah, I'm more afraid of running into a Drifloon or a Flutter Devo as opposed to an Enamorus and some
Yeah.
Energizes. Right, that doesn't scare me nearly as much. Albeit if they hit Energize turn 1 and they have like triple monkey spawned in on turn 2, like you're probably losing the game, right? Like it's very challenging to deal with that if you just get your Duskull spawn camped and they can at some point like triple Adrenabrain Charmander plus Mind Bend the active, right? Those are things that are very very threatening. But yeah, just generally speaking, I think Fluttermane is probably the scariest version for me to go up against. Um, I think I drew considerably better than Riley in our game, and I still ended up tying. And I felt like he just kind of had a huge advantage. Probably played, nearly perfectly as well, which helps. But I definitely felt like that Fluttermane line was very scary for me.
Yeah, so I think, okay, I guess now there's two things for Pull Dusk players to cling to. I don't know that people are really going to be playing this Enamorous build in large quantities. Um, but yeah, if it seems to catch on for Lille and Gdansk, then at that point, maybe you could justify playing Dragapult if like 50% of Gardevoir players are playing this list that honestly like looks very unfavored against Pull Dusk, in my opinion.
Yes, I did also have this thought about the Absol matchup. I know you had a very good record into Absol, and your Guardy deck was probably about as poorly designed for this Absol deck as it possibly could have been, right? Like
Yeah.
no Enamorous, no like big swinger, no Turo, and you still had like a very very large amount of success into this Absol matchup. Is that kind of the norm? Can I play a list like what you played and still succeed against Absol, or do I need to play an Enamorous, or do I need to play a Turo to have success there? Like, can I afford to play Jellicent and take a good Pult Dusk matchup and still get away with it against Absol? Because that's, I think, another question that Guardy players are going to have.
I think the answer is yes. Um, it's not going to be heavily favored. I think it's a close matchup. I also think a lot of, and I'm still actually exploring this, but a lot of my success was due to my opponents being unable to find an Evoltal line. Like, and I still need to think about this, but if you're pre-benching Mew and Fez, you get rid of a lot of your problems as far as losing to Claw of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have like double, triple monkey in play, I'm not sure that trapping the Fez actually does anything for them as long as you're not going to get decked out. So I still have to determine if they, because like they need to have enough monkeys to cancel out your monkeys and then eventually make some kind of 4 prize play. So if you have 3 monkey, they have to have 3, which means they're probably going to have to penny a bunch of Pokemon. And they don't actually have that many pennies.
Yeah.
So I think I still have some analysis to do there. But I think if you put a Turo into your deck and then you just start pre-benching Mew and Fez every game, I think that's going to be a very, very strong strategy. And that's probably what I will do if I decide that I am losing to these evil tall lines.
Right. That seems reasonable.
Yeah, I want to be able to pre-bench Mew and Fez so that I can draw cards.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of the method. I had success with that as well. Charming your Fez seemed pretty solid, right? You just kind of make sure that you have the dual threats on all aspects of your board. You have an attacker powered up if your Gardevoir goes down. You have draw power if your card in hand gets taken out, right? You kind of just leave your board with very few weaknesses. Gardevoir, of course, probably one of the best decks in the format of creating like that type of dual threat on their board. So yeah, that makes sense to me. So would you play Jellicent this weekend if you were going to Lille?
Yeah, I'd play the same list. I really like the item. I just love the way the deck flows, the item lock, the way my list is built. I mean, like it's like really Henry's list.
Yeah, you're a list buddy. Okay, buddy. Sure.
The list the list I played. I like the turn 1 item lock. The Arvins for the air balloon really strong. It gives you this like, even having the threat of the turn 1 Frillish sometimes gives you a lot of information about your opponent's hand. Like, if my opponent knows I'm playing Frillish and then they don't play any Ultra Balls on turn 1, maybe I don't need to Frillish because they would have played them, right? And you can kind of get into some advanced kind of hand reading stuff there, and I really like that dual like setup mode.
Yeah,
and then. Yeah, I like the Pult matchup really nice. It's really nice against Gholdengo. I think it's pretty nice against It's honestly just really nice against every deck when they go first. They don't play the item cards they need. Like Absol doesn't play Trolley on turn 1. Oh my gosh, you're getting Frillished. Like you probably lost the game on the spot.
I didn't realize that. Run Errand does not get you any basics when all you have in your deck as outs is like 2 Absols and that is it. I had a game this morning actually where we had like an 18 card hand or something with Kangaskhan and we just could not find an Absol under Itchy Pollen Lock. Couldn't even find Psyduck. And like eventually it was just like Dusknor, Phantom Dive, Iono. You lost your like 18 card hand and now your new hand is still unplayable. So it definitely feels like that turn 1 Frillish is really, really powerful. I was a little skeptical of playing 3 Arvins in a format where Lilies exists, because I know that Ian went the complete opposite way and played 4 Lilies and 1 Arvin. But I do see a lot more impact of the item lock right now. It actually feels like a lot of decks are kind of disrespecting item lock a little bit more heavily because item lock is less prevalent. It's always that cycle with like anything in Pokemon where if people disrespect it, it becomes better. People play it, people respect it and it becomes worse, right? So it's kind of that vicious cycle. And I think I agree, right? The first place and the second place Gardevoir and Charizard list from Milwaukee are not respecting it. There's a lot of decks in the format that are going very heavy on their item reliance. So I think I do like your take on the same 60. So maybe that would be the play. I think Jellicent Guardy is probably the best version of Guardy as well this weekend. I think that's at least would be my personal opinion if I was playing Guardy. The Dango matchup was always like very, very scary for me with any other version of Guardy. Like I very frequently, and I see that the lists for Dango Rocks are playing Trolley. I was always very scared about hitting the Prime Catcher build because they would just like Prime Catcher take 1 on Ralts turn 1, and I was just immediately back like 2 and oftentimes 3 prize cards before I did anything. So maybe I don't have to worry about Dango Rocks as much if they're not playing Prime Catcher, but it always felt like the Jellicent version just had such a good time into Dango Rocks. And that feels like, even though maybe it didn't convert well, it's just always a very highly played deck. Like you want to get through the first 4 or 5 rounds of a regional, you're probably hitting a Dango, right? It feels like something that you got to at least consider when you're playing Guardy.
You think about these aggro decks, Dango, Ceruledge, and I guess like Bolt and Terrabox kind of as a side thought. Is Ceruledge better than Dango? Are Raging Bolt and Terrabox better than where do you kind of rank those aggro decks?
Yeah, I remember that we had this conversation last or 2 weeks ago with the tier list, right? And we determined that Ceruledge is probably the best deck, and we were actually right. Pre an unjustified DQ
Hmm.
There was supposed to be a Sarah Legend top cut, and there were no other aggro decks in top cut. So we kind of hit the nail on the head with the results. And Sarah Ledge felt like it was kind of the best deck across the board. So I think across the board, Sarah Ledge still kind of stands out to me as like, no matter what you hit, no matter what tech cards you hit, it feels like it's just objectively very solid. If you play something like Gholdengo, you're more susceptible to tech cards, you're more susceptible to Jelly Guardy, right? You have some more like issues with certain matchups as opposed to like a solid spread. But I think if you hit the right things, your ceiling is a little bit higher for Terra Box. So that's like the one where like the overall power level of that deck feels stronger, but I just think that it's positioned so poorly as a result of this Kangaskhan deck. It's very hard to knock out any of these mega Pokemon. Your attackers are just really, really poor into this deck. You might have to play like the Eevee line, honestly. I'm not too familiar with that version of the deck, but the Flareon Leafeon, like those attackers are at least more fundamentally solid.
Yeah.
So that part's kind of interesting to me, but I think I would still probably just play Sarah Ledge again if I was playing an aggro deck. But I mean, I think we kind of came to the conclusion. I don't think any of these aggro decks are all that good. I guess one aside is that out of all the aggro decks, I used to want to hit Gholdengo because Gholdengo felt like the best aggro deck to hit when I was playing Charizard, and now it does not feel like that. The Charizard versus Gholdengo matchup actually feels very scary for Charizard, especially if your opponent goes second and gets the turn 1 knockout. If you do not have a good turn 1 going first, and your opponent takes a 1-prize knockout, they now take a 2-prize lead with a 1-prize board. So you are just completely reliant on them whiffing an attack to actually win the trade. It's kind of like your whatever your Lorcana deck is, right? If you just kind of have that really, really strong turn, you actually do just put yourself in like a super favorable spot off the rip. So I am scared of Gholdengo Rocks, and I'm even more scared of Gholdengo Rocks. Actually, this is a good transition with the I have to make a decision now about adjusting my list with respect to cornerstone decks with this Ho-Oh card from Surging Sparks. I've had a lot of questions about this as well, so I want to provide some more in-depth thoughts on that. Where this Ho-Oh card is really, really good against cornerstone, and it is really, really well, it's not really, really, but it is a substantial amount worse against Gholdengo. The extra energy attack cost, because it's a 3 energy card. Let me actually, I'll pull it up here for the people watching on YouTube here. So that way, if you're not familiar with the Ho-Oh card, we will have it on the screen here. There we go. So this Ho-Oh card functionally is the same as Chi-Yu for its use cases. It does have a very different attack. It's 200 if you have a Terra on your bench. So it does kind of just do more than the Chi-Yu, but the functionality of it is the same. You want it to one-shot Gholdengo with a 1-prizer. You want it as a 1-prize attacker that can get through walls. But it's much better at getting through walls, and it's much worse at dealing with Gholdengo because this extra energy attack cost is very, very taxing in an aggro matchup where your resources are already very demanded on like turn 2, turn 3. So I would love to play this card because I think it takes your Absol matchup from being pretty close to pretty much unlosable. This card doing 200, it's you can joust a cornerstone and take off the bravery charm and leave it with 200 HP left, and you can just swing with this for 200. And you also shut off monkey with Klefki, so they can't even monkey around it. So that's pretty huge. They do have mist energy, so if they have mist energy bravery charm, I can't joust. But generally speaking, like you can get through a cornerstone even without using any Dusknor pieces. And on top of that, the problem that Chi-Yu has is it loses a ton of value on the next attack. It only does 50 damage if your opponent doesn't knock something out, which is the hope. The hope is you knock out the first cornerstone fast enough that the second one isn't powered up. So if that's the case, you can just boss the second one and then you swing for 200. Once you do that, the game is, for most functional purposes, the game is already over. So this card kind of flips that matchup to kind of just be almost unlosable. But the counterpoint is that this Gholdengo matchup, and like I said, Gholdengo, if you want to win a tournament, you probably have to get through a Gholdengo round 1 to 5. This card is very, very bad there, and I've had a lot of troubles with chaining attackers, not just the first Ho-Oh, but of course the second attacker, the third attacker, because of that extra energy cost. So I have to make a big decision on whether to play this card or not going into Buenos Aires. Um, but I mean that's pretty far away. We'll have those Lille results. We'll have the Gdansk results. So make a decision based on the Absol play rate, the Absol success, as well as the play rate and success of Dengo. Do you have any follow up thoughts on this Ho-Oh card? I know that you probably don't play much Charizard.
I actually have one, which you didn't mention this, so I don't know if this doesn't come up, but I feel like it's a really big deal that you have to have a Charizard in play for this to kill Dengos, Teal Masks. Like, are you ever playing trying to play one prize board with Chi-Yu? Because you wouldn't be able to do that. I guess you could max belt the Ho-Oh,
Yeah, that
and then
would
you
be
could play
the
the one prize board.
I was gonna say that's the counterpart. The base damage of 100 is actually enough where you're one-shotting Dengos, one-shotting Teal Masks. In fact,
The max belt.
my main list that I play this in is actually Secret Box because Secret Box has more reach, so you can afford to get that extra energy attachment more often. So even with Defiance Band in the Secret Box build, you're still doing 130, so it's perfect math on Dengo. It's enough to knock out Ogrepon. And if for some reason I don't have a Terra in play, and I'm tied on prize cards, I guess I can't one shot. But I think the assumption is if they go boss around your Charizard, then or boss around your Ho-Oh to knock out your Charizard, then you'll have Defiance Band available. So I don't think that comes up. I don't think that comes up almost ever actually. Even like Bravery Charmed Teal Mask still gets KO'd with the Defiance Band. So I think your bases are covered for the most part.
That makes sense. And one other topic that we said we wanted to talk about, and I feel like we kind of breezed right past it, is Absol real or fake? Like we were talking about the matchups, but what do you actually think of this deck? There's murmurs, like some people are saying, "Oh, it's now people know how to play against it. It's bad. Whatever." What do you think? Is the deck fundamentally strong? Is it like a flash in the pan? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. And of course, we're having a discussion about a tech card that is specifically designed or specifically played for Cornerstone. Of course, there are multiple decks of Cornerstone, but you are thinking about this deck when you are making that decision. So
Yeah.
I do think that the deck is going to be positioned substantially worse in its current form. That being said, the deck is, for most purposes, a box deck. Your Cornerstone investment is like, what, 3 cards, 2 Cornerstones, and 1 fighting energy. You can adjust the way that this deck is played. If you find ways to innovate on this archetype, I'm sure you can fix some of those issues. Right there, you could play some more disruptive Absol lines, right? Where yeah, you want Cornerstone for Dengo, but if you can play some disruptive lines, maybe tax their resources. You have really high HP Mega Pokemon. Maybe you can discard some superiors with the attack. Maybe you even play some disruptive cards like Eerie, right? And you just try to snipe some superior energy retrievals. There could be alternative ways that you try to play this deck to proactively work against like the quote unquote countermeasures. So, of course, your Cornerstone strategy is not going to be as viable if people are playing cards like Ho-Oh. Your Retreat Lock strategy is not going to be as effective if people are playing Turo, if people are playing Jet Energies, right? But, I mean, maybe if you just don't play those elements in your deck and you sub them from something else, you could try to find another way to make that deck work. And that's also why I wanted to bring up Gabriel's second place list, because I feel like there's a lot of chatter on Tord's list and not a lot of chatter on this list. This deck doesn't even play Eviltal in it. Like, it's not even a win condition for the deck. It's playing 3 Kangaskhan, it's playing more supporter cards, it's playing Unfair Stamp, right? There's much more of a disruptive focus on this deck with the Unfair Stamp, as opposed to that kind of trolley early setup, as opposed to kind of disrupt the opponent into Absol. So if I was trying to deal with this Absol deck and I was teching in cards like Turo, those cards don't actually do anything if now my game plan becomes Unfair Stamp, Claw of Darkness, right? That seems like a really, really strong combo that can just win some games on the spot. So depending on kind of how the board gets set up, again, you talked about counterplay with things like pre-benching Fez, pre-benching Mew from the Guardy perspective, depending on the deck, you might be able to try to gear the deck more towards, what you expect the counters to be, and then proactively deal with those counters before you actually hit them in the first place.
I do like this list a lot. One other thing that I actually thought was in this list, but it's not, is Bidoof. One of my locals, shout out Hassan. I don't know if Hassan watches this, but if he does, we played some good games. Having Bidoof in this Absol deck is very annoying to play against, because then you get those dynamics that I was talking about with the Frillish Guardy. where it's like, are they gonna item lock me? Maybe. So then you need to play your Ultra Ball on turn one, right? And then they can kind of get that read of like, maybe you play the Ultra Ball and then they don't Bidoof or they Iono or whatever, right? So, and that Bidoof also plays really well into the unfair stamp because you'll get people just like killing your Bidoof and then you can stamp them.
Yes, that is a fantastic point here. I also like the fact that with Bidoof decks, the main struggle you normally have with Bidoof is like a permanent part of your board as a 30 HP Pokemon that is a free prize. This deck does not have that downside because you have pennies and also because you have bravery charms, right? So you're able to kind of patch up some of those issues. It's one of the big reasons actually why we were talking about Playstyles for Worlds, and we were like, this Bidoof card is terrible. We cannot Bidoof against any deck with a Monkey Dory, and it's a terrible opener. Right, this deck can actually utilize the upside of Bidoof much more effectively. So I think that actually makes a ton of sense. And we talked about how a lot of decks are disrespecting item lock, right? You run into one of these Guardy decks, you can probably just sit there and Bidoof, and then you take the first prize card before they even have the chance to make a Curlia, nevertheless a Gardevoir, and then you're off to the races, right? So definitely like the sounds of some sort of item lock shenanigans. And this is actually how I imagined Bidoof would be, and I'm really happy that Bidoof's at this point where rather than Bidoof just being a staple in half of the decks in a core strategy, it's like a very positional card that can exploit certain deficiencies in decks when the time comes, right? It's a card that you kind of use as a tech card as opposed to a core strategy. So I'm really happy that that's starting to come to fruition, you know, whatever it is, 7-8 months after the release of Bidoof and the travesty that was the Prismatic Evolutions format.
Okay. That was a lot of very technical speak for someone who just wants to rare candy Charizard.
Yo, chill. Okay, but like honestly,
we all know that's the real reason.
That Cloth Terapagos deck with double Bidoof and Mochi was just like the worst thing, man. Like Bidoof for 80 into like switch card to heal your poison yourself again, Bidoof for 80. Like that, come on, man. That's just like a terrible way to play Pokemon. I'm not having this at all.
Yeah, that was kind of bad. I was evoing Refinement Curlia, so I didn't mind that. But
you played Klefki too, didn't you?
Yes, I played a Klefki. Okay, so that's why that was not really a big deal. But it does sound kind of toxic when you put it that way. And I can see how being on the receiving end of the Pult Dusk, like Bidoof spam into blow up a bunch of Dusknors, that also feels pretty toxic.
Yeah, I don't mess with that. I mess with defensive Bidoofs that can set up like good position. I feel like when Jake Gearhart made the comments about Bidoof being like the best card to be printed, I feel like that's more what he had in mind. Although he like refused to acknowledge the downsides of Bidoof, I feel like he was just like, no, this card's broken, this card's great for the game, as opposed to, oh, this card can be used in toxic ways that aren't healthy, but also in very, very healthy ways that are actually good for the game. So I like that quite a bit. That part, I rate that part quite a bit.
I also wonder with the Absol deck, like you could take this list and get rid of the Cornerstone, and I don't know necessarily what comes in, but that could also be an angle because I think Dango decks are maybe playing Mega Lucario. I think I would be trying to solve the Charizard matchup by cutting the Cornerstone, and I don't know if that's possible.
Crispins plus Iron Leaves? No, that's just gotta be horrible.
What if the deck played Ultra Balls and then played Golduck, and then they put Golduck in play, and you can't use Dusknor?
So
that probably still doesn't matter. Just kill it.
I watched one of your YouTube videos recently, and you talked about some of your Pidgeot control locals playing Golduck in their deck. So yeah. I took like 15 minutes to theorize my game plan if I ran into that, and the conclusion I came to is I'm just going to have a turn to knock out the Golduck with a boss, and then you have to rebench Psyduck, and then I just have a turn to use my Dusknors anyways. So that was my plan against Pidgeot control. That definitely will carry over even more so to this version of the deck. So I imagine that's probably not getting us there if we're being honest. I just don't think the Psyduck card is actually good against Charizard at all if they have Klefki. Like I've had so many games where they just bench the Psyduck and it just fixes my prize map for me. Like I kill the Psyduck and they stretch the Psyduck back and I just get another free prize card for it. So I don't think it's got to be in that regard. You have to exploit some sort of like functional weakness of Charizard that actually exists. So maybe taking advantage of the fact that it's a stage 2 deck, taking advantage of mobility issues. You could play hard. Maybe you play even harder for the Evil Tall Lock. I had a lot of people that didn't even go for the Evil Tall Lock against me, and honestly, like my resources were pretty taxed. I'm in positions where I have to commit a lot of fire energies in certain spots. So if they like trap my Pidgeot, I have to jet energy out of it, and I have a Klefki on my board, so I have to like use my jet energies, and then Klefki's a trap target as well. So honestly, maybe you even go the opposite way where you commit even more resources to the trap mechanism. Actually, something that could be really cool in this deck is like positioning it more like a Snorlax deck, where you play Erica's Invitation, and then you just go Erica's Invitation, and you trap liabilities really hard. So even if they play a card like Turo, you can like relock the Fez on the board. So I could definitely be a fan of something like that, because I feel like that is actually more of a valid way to play the retreat lock. I even heard some murmurs about like melodic in this deck. I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do, but something like Gardevoir, if they have too many energies trapped and you just like bench Feebas with a Bravery Charm, you definitely have a turn to make a melodic. But kind of like you're saying, you need to play Ultra Balls in your deck as well. But I like the idea of turning this into more of a Snorlax deck, where like Rotom V is your Mega Kangaskhan, and then you still have the win con of taking prizes, but your deck is just very, very geared towards that idea of being like this. It's kind of like Pidgeot control in that sense, where you can win via taking prizes, but also win via deck out, and they're both very valid, as opposed to Evil Tall kind of being a means to an end for taking prize cards. You just like full commit to this idea of decking out your opponent. And maybe play,
I'm liking this. I might have to I might think about this a bit more.
Yeah, you play like Impound Sudowoodo as well. You play the fighting energies already. So you just like play the actual way to lock without doing damage. That could be something cool. But I always find go ahead.
I was gonna say, I also think I actually really like Ultra Ball in this deck. The deck like plays a lot of shuffle draw with Lily, and no ways to discard cards, and a lot of Pokemon that are dead in a lot of matchups. And just being able to discard, like, I almost wonder if just playing like 3 Ultra Balls definitely instead of the Mega Signal, and like maybe also instead of some of the Nest Balls, or just in addition to the Nest Balls. Yeah, I like Ultra Ball.
Okay, have you ever played any Garchomp? I know that you don't like this deck, but have you played any Garchomp at all?
No, I've played against it, but I've never actually played it.
Okay.
You'd like Ultra Ball there?
In your experience, how many times does Corkscrew Smash to draw until you have 6 actually draw until you have 6, unless you get Ionoed? Every single time I play this deck, they're Corkscrew Smashing for 1 or 0. And I played a few games this deck, and I was trying to figure out if like this deck was any good with Premium Power Pro. And every single time I would play this deck, I sit on 5 cards that are all dead, and I have no Ultra Balls in my deck, and I can't Corkscrew Smash for any cards. I have 1 Seeker Box. I wish I had a bunch of cards that just read discard 2 cards, shuffle your deck. So yeah, when you said that, I'm like, yes, dude, this is like the premier candidate for that. So I like the idea of being able to thin some cards. I know you're like a huge Ultra Ball fan. Even when they announced the reprints of Ultra Ball, you were like, oh, this card's great. I love this for the game. And I had the opposite opinion, but the Ultra Ball card is actually insanely broken when you have these shuffle draw decks that play no research and no ways to discard cards. And on top of that, they play cards that you cannot burn. That's like the key distinguishing factor. So when decks play a bunch of Poffins that you can discard, and Nest Balls that you can discard, and Vessels, or maybe not even Vessel, but cards that search your deck and then you can fail them, so much better than being stuck with like Counter Catchers, Enhanced Hammers, 2 extra Mega Kangaskhan's, right? Just like complete junk that you play Lily's Determination and you just redraw into it. So I kind of like the idea of an Ultra Ball focused build, even if it's just to discard cards. You do have a lot of cards to discard.
Yeah.
So maybe someone can crack the control Kangaskhan Snorlax stall in 2025 kind of deck. Maybe even Snorlax control in 2026 kind of build. I always have found that when I try to make control decks work, because I played Snorlax to Worlds in 2024, and I played it to Baltimore after that. It was like the biggest time sink of all time, because I would just sit there thinking about like the most random tech cards that I can lose to. Where it's like, if this deck plays a Turo, if this deck plays a Spiritomb, if this deck plays Regieleki, if this deck plays Petrant EX, is like, how do I deal with these things? And you spend so much time trying to like craft game plans for these things, and then actually testing whether they work or not is so challenging because your average game length is like 40 minutes. That's like such a time barrier where I just don't feel like it's actually worth it to crack any of those control type archetypes unless there's already a very established idea for it. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I know you never play control. If you have any similar thoughts on that.
No, well said. It's just really hard to figure out all those lines and make sure they work. Honestly, when I was in seniors, I actually played a lot of different control decks because frankly, I had the time and I would literally spend 30 hours a week just crafting my control deck. I would be sitting in my high school math class and I would just be like writing down deck lists in my notepad, like, oh, how do I beat this tech card? How do I beat this right? But yeah, there's just other good decks, and you don't even know if you're going to be able to make it work. So I think that's my thing. I personally won't be trying to break this Absol deck. I might think about it. I've got a 12-hour drive to Milwaukee here, so maybe I'll do some thinking about it, but I don't think I'll invest.
Maybe think about some Lorcana on that trip, eh?
Yeah, good call. I've been watching a bunch of podcasts and like tier lists and like basically what we're doing for Pokemon. I've watched all this content for Lorcana, and it's actually been pretty helpful. I think I could cook this weekend.
Okay. Is there like an online like place where I can follow the standings like there is for like Arcanine or like Pokédata?
I don't think so. There might be, but it's not going to be as accessible. I don't know.
It's like how
I will probably update my Twitter with how I'm doing.
Update your Twitter? Oh, I mean, you committed to it now. You have to.
I'll update the Twitter.
I know those tweets are gonna do numbers when you say that you're like 3-2-1 at your Lorcana event in Milwaukee, bro.
Yo, people are gonna be hyped. They're like, yo, what? And then I'm gonna go like 3-5-1, and then they're gonna be like, nice try. I'll post my aggro list on Twitter. My Daisy Duck, Tiana.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's a deck.
Do you know about like all the IP that Magic has done recently? Like how they had like this
yes.
Dude, they had like a Transformers set. They had like I think a Marvel set recently as well. Like they just have the most ridiculous stuff, and it's so funny because you'll see these memes where they're like, "Yeah, Magic in 2028," and they're just like summoning stuff from every single IP, like it's Fortnite, like summoning John Cena to like attack or some crap, and it's just so funny. And Lorcana is kind of like that, but in a sense where it's all Disney IP. It's actually like you actually have the Mickey deck. So when they call Mickey decks in Pokemon like that, you actually just literally have the Mickey Mouse deck. It's so funny.
Yeah, so if I said I have a Mickey Mouse deck, you'd be like, oh, is this deck terrible or is he just playing Mickey Mouse?
Yeah. The Lorcana players just won't know the slang. I'm just using slang, man.
That'd be funny. Maybe I'll do that. I'll say that my opponent has a Mickey Mouse deck, and they'll be like, no, man, my deck is Lion King. Yeah. I'll be like, Anyways, I think that covers all the topics we wanted to go through. Was there any other decks or events going on you wanted to talk about today?
There's not that much that's changed, so I don't really think so. I do want to put out a disclaimer. I've gotten a few questions asking if they should put Gouging Fire EX into their deck. Please do not put Gouging Fire into your Charizard deck. That has to be the worst possible idea. Ho-Oh does the same function, and it's not game losing against Gardevoir and Dragapult if you start it. So it's like putting Blood Moon into your Dragapult deck, except you don't have Blood Moon in your deck. You have Gouging Fire EX in your deck. So yeah, I would highly recommend that you do not do that. But I do wish the best of luck to all my Charizard soldiers this weekend, because I think Charizard will be like a top 3 deck this weekend. I'm feeling a big week for Charizard. I know that in Europe they actually have way more Charizard players than they do in North America, where like Charizard was winning events in that Surging Sparks Drago format, like back to back. And it was just, come on, dude, Drago is not that good. Like it was really not that good.
Slander. This is actually ridiculous. This is like, nah. That deck was broken.
Come on, man.
You did everything. You had Phantom Dive, you had Kyurem, Tina Gudra. Your consistency was insane. You would like just Cleffa 3 times at the start of the game. You would like
Dude.
brick so bad, but then you would eventually draw out of it and you would still win. Like,
Oh.
chef's kiss. That deck was busted.
Dude, if my deck has to Cleffa 3 times, I might as well just I might as well just play something else, dude. Like, come on.
No. You're missing the point, man. The point is like the deck is so good that you can Cleffa 3 times and still win.
I don't know how many times I sat in a regional and I'm playing Zard and I'm just like I just like look over to my right and I see 2 guys playing Dragomir and they're just sitting behind Cleffa for like 3 turns until someone finds a boss. It just sounds absolutely horrible, dude. I'm sorry.
Yo, I played Iron Bundle in my Drago deck.
Oh right. You had the tech. Did they?
That was fire.
You know how in that format, like everyone that was like Bundle was like played in Chen Pao and something, so people started benching like the second one prizer. Did people start doing that against you because they just knew that you had Bundle?
Yo, they can't, because if I bundle and they put up Radzard, I kill the Radzard and then I Phantom Dive onto the Cleffa and I take 2 anyways.
Oh my god! Wait,
gosh.
That actually is pretty broken. But what if your opponent also plays Bundle so they can have Cleffa? No, wait, that doesn't work. Yeah, wait, the Cleffa is always dying to Phantom Dive no matter what. That's a broken tech.
It was tech. It worked.
Actually, on the note of decks having or I guess control being not just control being like very, very hard to optimize in that sense. I really like that Pokemon's in a spot where there's constant innovation onto existing archetypes to like make them better and better and better and adapt. I don't think we've ever seen this kind of like period of dominance from like a deck like Gardevoir, but the thing I actually like about Gardevoir that at least keeps it not as stale is the fact that every single tournament there's something new. So it keeps things fresh in a format where the dominant archetypes have been dominant for now like about a year, if not more, in the cases of Gardevoir and Charizard. So I really enjoy that. And so when you talk about like an innovation like Iron Bundle and Drago, that's kind of what that makes me think of as you kind of get to meta the meta, right? And you can really, really optimize lists towards certain matchups and certain decks with cards that are a little bit unexpected. Like I wouldn't think that Iron Bundle is kind of the way to beat the Dragomir. Like it's a far stretched conclusion, which is pretty cool. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Those techs are cool, and you only find them by like playing a lot and really understanding what situations determine who's winning the game. Like you said, who finds boss first? Well, how do I make sure I just always have boss first? I make it searchable by Nestball.
Yes, that's so cool. All right. That's a lot of yap. That's a decent amount of good conversation. If someone breaks this control Absol deck, please let me know though. I'm very curious to see if any of these ideas are curious, but I think next week I really want to see how these Absol decks adjust. So I'm gonna put that on the to-do list to take a look through some little lists, see if there's any Charizard innovation, any Absol innovation, and of course we're going to see how Dragapult Dusknor did. I'm calling it now. Dragapult making at least top 4 this weekend.
Wow. Okay, let's wrap up with some predictions for the Lille top 8.
All right.
Let's go with how many Zards, how many Guardies, how many Dragapults, and how many Absols.
Okay, that's a great question. And this is just top 8, no ASIM, right?
Yeah, just top 8. Make it simple.
Okay. I want to say that we got exactly 1 Dragapult in top 8. I don't think there's going to be a huge showing of Dragapult. Do you agree? I think that's a fair number.
Yep, I do. I was going to say 1 Dragapult as well.
What do you think about Guardy?
Give me 2 Guardies. Last week, Anil predicted 2 Guardies for Milwaukee, and I actually roasted him in DMs, saying there would be more. But this time, I think Charizard will keep Guardy in check at least a little bit. So 2 Guardies.
Yeah, at least a tiny bit. I wouldn't say it's enough to fully shut it out at all. I do think I think Charizard's gonna have a good weekend as well. I'm thinking two Charizards. I'm a little bit biased, of course, but I think two Charizards, and if we're just thinking top 8, I think it's like about one Absol as well. We got to leave some space for the Europe's got some certified jank that always shows up, right?
They do. There's gonna be like a jungle dump in top 8.
Oh, the jungle dumper, man. The jungle dumper is positioned phenomenally. This might be the best positioned that Mega Venusaur has been since Mega Evolutions came out.
What a terrible statement. Like, yeah, probably true, but it's still not positioned well. It's like a 3 out of 10 instead of a 1 out of 10 or something. I don't know.
But yeah, Mega Venusaur's teed, bro.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna say 0 Absols.
0. Not a believer.
0 Absols, 2 Guardies, 2 Zards, 1 Polt, and Partridge in a pear tree, or whatever the saying is, to finish out that list.
That's your way of saying that Mega Venusaur's got 2 in top 8? All right. Okay, yep. Bud.
All of those extra spots are Mega Venusaur.
Lock it in. That's all the ASIM spots, actually, too. They just kind of collateral themselves in the ASIM. They all hit each other.
That's the only way that I could lose. It's so busted.
It's also why Absol has 0 in top 8. We're jungle dumping all over the Absols.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go to Milwaukee, do some Lorcana, and we'll see you guys next week.